Hello everyone, welcome to the online video tutorial series of your advanced web programming. In this video, I will explain introduction to AngularJS. So in this video, I will cover the topics of basics of AngularJS, how it is useful in real world dynamic web programming development, what are the features of your AngularJS, what are the advantages of AngularJS. It also covers the applications, and in brief, we have to understand what are the context of routes, what are the navigations are provided by AngularJS, and most important thing, all about MVC architecture and services. So when you are learning basic AngularJS, then this content will be covered. So in this video, I will try to cover some important aspect of your AngularJS. So let's start with our first title, basics of our AngularJS. So first question of learning any new technology is why? Why we are learning this particular technology, or we can say that why we are learning right now AngularJS. So if we are talking about basic web development, so for that we learn already HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If we are talking about the backend side languages, then PHP is there, very famous, Python is there, Java, .NET framework is available. But when we are talking about web application, and in that specifically dynamic web application, at that time we need some specific language that provides one common platform that will be helpful to developer as well as for the transactions performed during the request and response. So when we are talking about AngularJS here, so before that we must know the basics of AngularJS. Before that we have to basic idea of HTML, CSS, and basics of JavaScript, and also some context of your Ajax. So HTML is normally used for your static documents, but when we want to interact dynamically with the web page, then it is not up to date. Then we have to use some other language at the backend for dynamic web application. So AngularJS is provide one extended version of your HTML for developing your web application, and that provides beautifully that you can easily develop your web application that is easily accessible, that codes are easily developed, readable, and user can easily interact. So specifically when we are talking about what is AngularJS, then AngularJS is provides one advanced JavaScript framework to create one dynamic framework. So when we are talking about Angular and JS, so JS stands for your JavaScript. So we can say it is an extended version of your JavaScript. And specifically, when we are talking about the single page application that provides a quick response to the user, then AngularJS framework is very popular nowadays. So when you are clicking or refreshing any page, every time new request is going to the server and response is coming out. So what happened exactly? Every time your request and response are going through the network. But here Angular is providing one platform using that without your refresh going to the server, your client is only giving the response without knowing to the user at the blink of a particular second. So this is the beauty of your AngularJS. So now understand what is the AngularJS behind the who developed that and what are the versions history of that. So Misko Haversi and Adam and Knobs, both are the behind the picture of AngularJS. They are the employee of Google, and they are playing with some beautiful code that is useful for client-side scripting language. And they introduced that particular framework in 2009. And that idea is accepted by officially Google, and first version is coming out in 2012. And when we are talking about the AngularJS license version, then it is under the Apache, and these particular Angular frameworks are maintained by the Google itself. So whenever you trying to code for Angular and your CDN is requesting for Angular particular source, then every time it is requested to the Google server, and from that particular data will be come out. So if we are talking about the history version of AngularJS, then as we know about it is maintained by our Google, and first it is maintained by these developers, and first version is coming out in October 2010. that is the Angular 1 here. So let's understand this history right now. Okay, so Angular 1 is updated to the Angular 2, 3, 4, 5, and latest version is Angular 10. So, and at many places on internet, you read something that AngularJS and Angular. Is there any difference? Yes, one basic difference is that initially when Angular is developed, accepted by Google, then version is updated to the Angular 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. At that time, the name is AngularJS. But after some time, when some updates are in the market, then when the Angular 2 version is coming out, they are removed JS. So the name of this framework will be Angular. So whenever you are searching for code on in the internet, at that time two separate things are there. One place is AngularJS with the version of 1 point something. Okay, but when you are taking the version after Angular 2 after 2.0, then all that framework are known as an Angular. So if you are downloading the source, at that time you have to take care about that you are downloading for AngularJS or Angular. Now we are moving to the next title, that is all about the features of AngularJS. So when we are talking about the features, so AngularJS is providing number of features that are categorized with the general features and core features. So when we are talking about the general features, so it is a rich set of internet application that provides number of frameworks to develop our dynamic web application. Second one is to create any web application. If you have a control in the hand of developer, then it is a very convenient. So your AngularJS is providing MVC architecture way. Model view controller is there, so we can easily develop application. Now next is all about the cross browser compatibility. So when you develop your particular application, that application can be run on the different browser. So if you are when you are learning JS, then you basic is that if browser is compatible with JS, then our code can run on that web browser. The same way, if your browser is supporting this type of functionality, then number of browsers which are available in market that supported our AngularJS. In Google Chrome V8 JavaScript version is JavaScript engine is there that supports different architectures and different version of JavaScript. And the last is very important thing about AngularJS, it is a open source. So when we are talking about the open source software, then open source software is accepted by many giant companies. That's why it is very popular nowadays in the market for developing web application. Now we are moving to the core features, that is technical features. So let's understand one by one. So first is directive, second one is template, third is routing, fourth one is MVC. So let's understand one by one. So your Angular is divided into the number of directives. That directories can interact with your DOM elements of JavaScript. So your DOM element can access the elements, property, and different HTML, CSS elements. So it is easy to maintain with the help of directives. Next is templates. So when we are talking about the template, so it is supports the number of browsers. Then one page applications can be maintained by our rendering engine, and it is handled by your model and controller. Third one is routing. So when we are talking about the routing, so it is the concept of switching the views. If you have number of views, suppose how your application can be viewed in mobile, how it can be viewed in your laptop screen, so you can easily switch from one to another tab and your development will become easy for the user perspective. Next is model view controller. So when any web development is supported through the MVC architecture, then it is very convenient to code for that. And our AngularJS is a rich set of MVC controller. A number of components are available. With the help of that, we can easily code. And the last one is dependency injection. So dependency injection is provide one platform using that whole application can be tested at once. So when we are talking about the testing of any application, Angular is providing unit testing. So with the help of whole code, developer can understand and create and test the application easily. Now move to the our core features of AngularJS. So next is data binding. So data binding is all about how our controller is providing the data to this particular specific attribute. So when we are passing the data from one field to another field, for data binding is between the model and view of the components. So without interacting the server, it can give a response. Next is a scope. So when we are talking about the scope is one common object. That common object is used for the controlling purpose. When the function is calling, when the external JavaScript is called with our particular text field or any other attribute. So controller is there. A controller is helping to transfer the data, the layout of data from one form to another form, and scope is useful for controller purpose. Here controller. So controller is nothing but a JavaScript function, and that JavaScript function help us to switch the data from one place to another place according to the development phase. Next is services. So services is all about the number of devices if number of provider is provide number of services. So AngularJS is supported number of services here that is related to our development. For requesting and responding, we have HTTP, and so HTTP services are useful for sending the request and getting the response from the browser. And the last one is all about the filters. So filter is used when your data items are in the form of array, or that will give the return number of data in the form of array. At that time you can use the filters. So when we are talking about the core features, it's our rich set of features that will be very helpful to design our particular web application. So now we are moving to the advantages of AngularJS. So if we are talking about the advantages, then first is easy to develop single page application. So I already discussed, if you are accessing the whole data in the single page without refreshing the page, your data there, if web page becoming interactive or it gives the responsive time, then it will be helpful. Second one is open source, so it is easily available. Next is reduced line of code, so you can reuse the code here. Once you write, you can use the same code number of times in the same program, then it will be helpful here. Data binding, so our data will be data binding is the process using that our internally data can be transferred from one element to another, and our data, our output will be a very interactive. So this is the basic idea, and the unit testing is all about how the easily our data and whole application can be tested by our user. So this is all about the advantages. Now I'm moving to the application structure. So when we are talking about the application structure of our AngularJS, so AngularJS is our JavaScript framework, and we can add that script with the help of script tag here, because ultimately our AngularJS is the advanced version of JavaScript. So you already know we can write script in curly bracket of our script tag. Now to write the particular data item, number of codes, we have number of directives, we have expressions. But how can we add, how can we tell HTML page, or how can we tell browser that this is my AngularJS code? So for that we have to add a library of your source code of your AngularJS. So we have two options here. You can download your JavaScript code, AngularJS code, or you can use the CDN concept. So this is the example how can we fetch AngularJS using CDN. So here you have to write script tag in that we have to write src http ajax google apis.com, then ajax, and this is the whole line of CDN is fetching the Google from the Google server. It will fetch the AngularJS site. So using this line we can manage to download, or we can get the script of your AngularJS. Now we are moving to the basic directives that will be helpful to write your AngularJS code. So from that, first one is ng-app directives. So ng-app is define the whole AngularJS application. When we are writing ng-app, from that your browser is understanding that now this is the code of AngularJS, because in the browser you are writing HTML code, CSS code, normal JavaScript code, AngularJS code. So from where, which place we our browser can understand. So ngF is helping the browser to knowing that this code is relevant to your AngularJS code. Next is ng model. So when we are playing with our HTML forms, at that time you have to play with your number of attribute, okay, that is related to text field, text area, drop down menu. So if you want to bind the value with our document, then we can use ng model. And third important thing is here ng bind. So ng bind here, it is a directive that binds our data and HTML view. What we are trying to display in our browser with the help of our AngularJS, for that ng bind is useful. Now let's understand first basic application with the help of AngularJS. So for that we are writing first line is doc type. So that is the mandatory thing. Then HTML, then script tag. In script tag we are writing here the CDN line code of your AngularJS, from where our AngularJS library will be fetched. But another alternative is that you can download the source code, and in SRC you can write the path where our AngularJS library is available. So for that, mandatory file is angular.min.js. Okay, angular.min.js is a main JS file that supports our AngularJS code. Now in that you can see one body part is there. In div tag we are writing here ngF here. So ngF is telling that in this div tag we are trying to write here AngularJS code. If we are writing AngularJS code in our head or any other place, it cannot understand, because right now our div tag is having the ngF. So I already explained ngF is telling our browser that in this particular tag my AngularJS code is available. So if you wish that my whole page can understand my AngularJS code, so it is advisable, instead of div tag you can write ngF tag in HTML. So after HTML HTML space ngF. So in whole HTML page, anywhere if you are writing your AngularJS code, your browser can interpret. Now in one div tag you are writing one p, two p tags are there. In one p tag we are writing name, and input type is equal to text here, and ng model is equal to name here. So here ng model is useful when you want to control with your form tag different attributes. Okay, so here we are playing with here text type. Okay, so your input type is equal to text, and here your data will be reflected with the help of ng model name. So ng model name is here name. Now I want to print whatever you are writing in text field, automatically it will be displayed in the next paragraph. So for that we are writing here p ng bind is equal to name here. In p tag what I am writing, ng bind is equal to name. So what happened actually when you are running this code, so in that you will find one text field. That text field, in that text field you are writing something. That data will be displayed automatically in the next paragraph, because ng model is binding the data, is ng binding when you are writing something in this text field. That text field having the ng model directives, that ng model directives name is name here. That name is binded with this particular paragraph tag. So what you are writing in this text field, that will be printed here in your p tag. So this is the very simple application. When you are running that, you can understand what AngularJS is giving. So this is the example here why we are using ngF, that is a directory that we are writing here in the particular div tag. Next is model. Model will helpful to bind the data, it will transfer it. And the last one is ng bind directives that binds the content with p elements. So in this video I will explain about what is AngularJS, why we are using AngularJS, and what is the basic structures are used to develop our AngularJS application. From next video I will explain the practical portion of AngularJS. Thank you for watching this video.